One morning I woke up and I had this midlife belly, but I hadn't changed anything in my life. My eating was the same, my exercise was the same. So I was horrified because I couldn't track down why I had this midlife belly. So I got to work researching to figure out what the heck was going on. And here's what's happening. Most people are not talking about this, but I want to assure you that this is a part of midlife. Remember how our bodies are nature and nature is always trying to balance itself out? Well, that is all that is happening is we're in a certain time of our life and our body changes and now it's trying to balance itself out. So let's reflect back on puberty. Remember how fun that was when we had no idea what was going on and we just hated the world? But guess what? When we went into puberty, our hormones changed and then our physical body changed. Like our bodies were different after we went through puberty. And then flash forward to pregnancy. Our hormones change and our body physically changes. And it's the same postpartum. Like after the baby comes, our hormones change again and our body physically changes. And so all that's happening right here and right now is that our hormones are changing and so our body is physically changing. So the good news is this is supposed to happen. And I know you're like, Heather, what the hell? Like, why is this supposed to happen? This doesn't seem fair. And I am with you on this because it can be a huge emotional and mental blow because you work really hard to stay in shape and to be healthy and to look a certain way. Trust me, I know as a personal trainer for over 15 years and a holistic nutritionist. And so when this happened to me, I was like, what the heck? I'm the one who people come to find out how to lose weight and to get the body they want. How is this happening to me? Because I haven't changed anything in my routine, but yet my body is changing. That's the main thing that really gets women is, but I haven't changed anything. And what it boils down to is it's okay. What we were doing just doesn't cut it anymore because as we go through perimenopause and menopause, which, by the way, ladies, lasts from 7 to 10 years, and when you get into menopause, that's a third of your life. You spent a third of your life in menopause. So believe you me, you want to know what's going on with your body. It's critical that you know what's going on for a third of your life. And when we hit midlife, our estrogen levels start to change. So we are nature and nature always balances. And so whenever a hormone changes, our body naturally is like, okay, what's going on? How do I balance this out? That's what the body's designed to do. When we hit midlife and our estrogen levels start to change a little bit, I just have this picture. Think of a light in school or something like one of those long fluorescent overhead lights. And when it starts to burn out, it flickers a little bit. That's what our hormones do. They start to flicker and change. And as we go from the section and time in our life where we are built to reproduce, to build human beings, to not doing that anymore and to coming back to ourselves and sharing our wisdom and sharing our love and back to community. That's what it is. If you listen to the podcast, you know, in classical traditional Chinese medicine, it's called the second spring. Midlife is called the second spring because you're going from reproducing to giving back to the community and sharing your wisdom and sharing your love. In North America, it doesn't happen like that. We head into midlife and then we're like, what the hell is going on? But nobody's talking about it. So we want to talk about it because what's happening is completely normal. If you are in perimenopause and you haven't experienced the midlife belly, keep listening because it's headed your way and you want to be prepared. Because if you're prepared for this, you don't have to wake up one morning like me and be shocked, like, what the heck? What is happening to my body? And your body will physically change as this happens. There are four main hormones that control weight, just in general. Like when we are just going about our day, there's four main hormones. I'm just going to give you a crash course in all of this so that you can walk away from this podcast knowing exactly what you can do to help get rid of this midlife belly. So you got to understand how it works first. So there's four main hormones. Insulin, that's what gets our body to store fat when there's too much sugar in our blood, too much glucose. And then cortisol, that's the stress hormone. And when the cortisol goes up, the insulin goes up. So if we're stressed, our body is saying store fat, store fat, store fat. And when we miss sleep, our cortisol levels go up. Like we want to really make sure that we're regulating these hormones. Then you have your ghrelin, which is your hormone that says, hey, I'm hungry, and leptin, which is like, oop, I'm good, I'm satisfied. So those are the four main hormones. And then all of a sudden, guess what happens when you hit midlife? Estrogen wants to come to the party. And it's like, oh, okay, we're going to change things up a little bit. And that's when the light starts to flicker, like the estrogen is dropping and coming back up. So it's kind of like doing a roller coaster ride thing, if you will. And it's trying to figure itself out. And then what happens is it drops and it stays down. And that's when your body goes from storing fat in your hips and thighs, because as females, that's where we're designed to store fat for reproduction, for making babies. And then we just store the fat. Your body stores the fat in the belly. That's just how it's designed when the estrogen gets low in the system. But this here is visceral fat. So this fat is what can lead to the heart diseases and the cancers and all this type of thing. So the other fat is subcutaneous. It's harmless. It's like cellulite, but this one is visceral fat and it can be stored around your organs. And that's why when women hit midlife, now we're at more risk for these types of diseases. And so it's really important, not just for us thinking about how we look in our body, because that has a lot to do with how we feel about ourselves, but just for our health sake. When we hit midlife, we don't want to all of a sudden be getting diseases or becoming frail or all of these things. So we want to make sure that we are getting rid of this visceral fat because it is not serving us, but it's just an adjustment of our body. Our body, the estrogen levels drop, and now our body says, how do I figure this out? How do I sort this out? How do I balance this out? And that's how it starts to balance it out. So it's really important to remember that hormones regulate where you store your fat, when you store it, how you store it, and just how all of this is happening, your hunger and your satiety. Like we can't out willpower our natural human desire. Like hunger is designed to keep you alive. And so it's a natural instinctual drive. And we don't want to overcome hunger. We don't want to like try to win over hunger. No, because it's telling you that you're hungry and you need to eat so that you can survive. And none of this stuff that I just talked about has anything to do with calories, because most people, most women that I coach and work with are stuck on calories in, calories out. And these hormones are driven not by calories, but just by instinct and evolution. And that's how the body is designed. It's just pure biology. This is what your body does. So remember, this can take 7 to 10 years. So we got to be kind to ourselves. We want to remember that this is a process that our body is going through, and it's nature. It knows what it's doing. We got to trust it, but we got to create a safe space in our brain and our body for this to happen. And how do we go about this and get rid of this once it sorts itself out, once our estrogen levels drop and now our hormones are rebalancing at the new, oh, this is my new normal. So that's how we want to think about it. Here's our new normal. In, calories out doesn't work because, okay, mathematically, yes, that's how we want to think about it. We want to burn more calories than we consume, because if we consume more calories than we burn, all the extra calories get stored as fat. So that's the calorie in, calorie out principle that mathematically work, like the numbers work. But the reason that it doesn't work and when you can understand this, you're going to be like, oh, I get it. I'm going to stop counting calories because I want everybody to stop counting calories because it just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to explain why. So the hero of this story, this one philosophy that I live by, and it works, and it's worked for all my clients, is calorie density. So calorie density is the number of calories in 1 pound of food. So the number of calories in 1 pound of food, that's how we calculate calorie density. Also, it's known as how easy it is to overeat on a food because those things go hand in hand. Let me just explain calorie density so that you understand the whole calories in, calories out principle. So calorie density is how many calories a pound in 1 pound of food. So on the very low end of the scale, we have vegetables sitting at like 100 or 150 calories per pound. So there's virtually minimal calories in vegetables. And then you jump up to fruit. Fruit is more like 300 calories per pound, give or take. Like each fruit is different, but that's just general. And then you have your unrefined complex carbs. So that means the complex carbs that have not been processed, just as natural as possible. And those are your potatoes and your sweet potatoes and whole wheat pasta, even though that's been refined, whole wheat pasta. You want to find the healthiest pasta you can. Your rices and your oats, those are your healthy complex carbs, and they're weighing in at 500 calories per pound. And then you get to your legumes, which are 600 calories per pound. And all of these are okay, there's been scientific studies done that show that if you stick in like the 500 calories per pound and move your body for 30 minutes a day, your body will lose weight or stay where it is. If you hit 500 calories per pound without exercising, your body will stay where it is. But if you move your body for 30 minutes, you don't have to kill yourself at the gym. Just move your body, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, all that. You'll lose weight at 500, 550 calories per pound. What that means is all of these groups that I just told you about, you can have as much of those as you want. You don't count the calories, but you know that the calories that are the foods that are lower in calories, you just have more of because you couldn't possibly overeat. If you're thinking calories in, calories out, and you're eating vegetables, you couldn't possibly overeat on the calorie part of it if you're adding up the calories on vegetables. It's not possible. Why? Because they're so bulky, they're so full of fiber, and they're full of water, and they're full of vitamins and minerals that you would be physically full and you couldn't possibly overeat on them to get past the calories in a day that would make you gain weight. But not all calories. So let me just finish off with the calorie density scale. Because if you just understand this, you're golden. You'll be like, oh, I get it. I'm going to eat like this. So fatty proteins, your meats, 1,000 calories per pound. So it jumps up once we get into anything out of what we just talked about, the legumes and that. And then your refined carbs, which are your breads and your crackers and your donuts, 1,400 calories per pound. Junk food, so your sugary stuff, like your chocolate bars and all that kind of stuff, 2,300 calories per pound. Nuts and seeds, 2,800 calories per pound. Now listen, nuts and seeds in and of themselves are not fattening, but remember, it's based on how easy it is to overeat on a food. And when you look at nuts and seeds coming in at 2,800 calories per pound, it's really easy to overeat on those foods. So nuts aren't fattening, but when you overeat them, they're fattening. So if you had 3 almonds, that's fine. But if you have the whole can of almonds, you've overeaten from the calorie density principle. So remember, you don't have to count your calories. You're just like staying away from these things. And then oils and fats, 4,000 calories per pound. So oils and fats are 40 times more calorie dense. There's 40 times more calories in oils than in veggies. When you are cooking, you want to stay away from the oils and the butters at all cost because now you're just throwing in all these extra calories that have no nutritional value and they don't fill you up. So it's not sustainable. So this is why it's so easy to overeat on these foods. Now, calorie density or calories in, calories out doesn't work, the philosophy of it, because when you look at something like a chocolate bar, a Snickers bar, it has 250 calories in it. And then broccoli, 250 calories of broccoli is a pound and a half of broccoli. That's like a huge plate of broccoli for 250 calories. And then 250 calories of a Snickers bar is just one little Snickers bar. So you can see that there's way more volume in broccoli. So even though they're the same calories, you're going to get way more food from the broccoli. And if you eat all that food, you're going to feel satisfied and full. So you can't overeat on it. And if you were to do the same weight, like a pound and a half of Snickers bar, you would get 3,200 calories in all of those Snickers bars. That is insane. Like that's way over like what if you're counting calories, that's way, way over what you should be having in a day. But even if you ate all those Snickers bars, let me tell you, you're still going to feel hungry. You're not going to feel satisfied. And so that's why the calories in, calories out doesn't work because all of those foods that are high in calorie density, they don't have any fiber. They just don't have fiber and they don't have the water. And that's why they're so calorie dense. So if you are wanting to really live a healthy life and get rid of that midlife belly, you want to start thinking calorie density, but never counting your calories. And when you can live a life where you're eating low calorie dense foods, guess what? You can become a volume eater. You can eat a ton of food. If you follow me on Instagram at Heather London Coaching, you will see that I eat copious large amounts of food. I eat huge amounts of food because I like to eat. So anytime if you were to tell me, oh, Heather, you have to restrict what you're eating and you have to stop eating even though you're still hungry, I would lose my mind and I would become defiant and I'd be like, oh, as soon as there's restriction and telling me I can't do something, now I want to do it. So the brain just is now working against you. Like you have to eat more. That wasn't enough. I don't feel satisfied. But if you're working from the calorie density principle, you can eat as much as you want on this foods that are on the left-hand side, like the foods that are low in calories, the veggies. It's impossible to overeat on the veggies. And if you pair it, make something called a 50-50 plate. So if you put 50% of your plate, those veggies or the fruits, and then 50% of starches, because if you're just eating fruits and vegetables, you can eat a ton, but you won't feel satisfied. You'll always be hungry and you'll always have to eat, which isn't a problem, but you most of the likely you'll want to feel satisfied and you'll want to not be eating all the time. And so when you put it with a complex carb, which has not been processed, then that fills you up. The most satisfying, satiating food on the planet is a steamed potato. That is the most filling. And then remember, if you're eating foods that are white, if they're a whole clean food, they still have nutrients, but they don't have as much nutrients as their friends that have color in them. So a purple sweet potato is higher in nutrition. A yam is higher in nutrition. The darker, the richer the color, the more nutrients it has in it. I personally will always like steam potatoes and have them in my fridge just as my standby and my go-to. And I prefer these. And then I do sweet potatoes as well. And then I have sweet potatoes that I make into chocolate pudding. And I can make them into chocolate pudding because the sweetness is already in the potato, no sugar added. Everything that I make is made from a whole clean food. And then I make it into like a sweet treat as well with no sugar added. So that means anytime I'm sweetening making a treat and sweetening it, what do I use? I use a fruit that has the sugar, but also the fiber because sugar is a poison. Sugar is toxic to our body. Sugar, it feeds all the bad stuff in our body, all the bad bacteria. It feeds the cancers. It creates insulin resistance, which makes us overweight, which leads to diabetes, all of that. And the reason why fruit is so low on the calorie density scale, remember it's 300 calories per pound, so it's hard to overeat on the food, is because it has fiber attached to it. Because it's full of fructose, which is a sugar, but it has the fiber. And so the fiber won't spike our insulin levels. And when our insulin levels are spiked, it tells our body to store fat, store fat, store fat. And so the fiber helps to keep our insulin levels steady, steady as she goes. And that's what we want. So I just wanted to come on today and give you a crash course on why this midlife belly is happening to you. It's not your fault. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just the way our body is designed, and all women in midlife go through it. And I promise you that if you create a safe place in your brain and in your heart and hold space for yourself and go, I know this is supposed to happen. And if I clean up my eating, clean up my nutrition, and practice calorie density, 50-50 principle, volume eating, that this will help my body balance itself out faster, and this midlife belly will go away. It will go away. Mine went away, but this is the principle that I followed. And I never restricted any food in the sense of not eating until I felt satisfied. Now, one thing that you do want to know too is that there's this is all the nutritional component of it. This will get you where you want to go. And if you follow this, you'll be successful. And then the other side of it is emotional eating. So if you are emotionally eating, then that's another thing that you want to work on, and that's totally separate. Okay, my friends. So those are two separate things. So this is how you can lose the midlife belly by eating a ton of food and nourishing your body. And you only have to move your body for 30 minutes a day. You don't have to kill yourself at the gym. You don't want to do the high intensity. No, you want to walk, you want to bike. So you want to do things that you enjoy doing so that you keep doing it, so that every day you'll show up and do it. And you will also want to build muscle. And you want to build muscle because you want to keep a strong foundation so that our bones are strong and we stay strong as we start to age and we don't become frail. And this allows us to avoid broken bones, and it allows us to keep following our dreams. Our body is never going to be the reason why we can't do something when we're 80 years old, because we're going to be strong AF and we're going to be able to do whatever the heck we want. If you want to go deeper into this, into calorie density, then I have done a free masterclass, and it's on my website at heatherlondon.ca, and you can go watch the whole thing in its entirety. I just wanted to give you like the speed version of it because this is a game changer. This will change your life. I promise you, if you just apply this principle, everything in your life will change, and you will enjoy your life so much better, and you will get rid of your midlife belly. Nothing has gone wrong. Your body is designed to do this, and it's perfectly, nature is balancing itself out, and your body has this innate intelligence, and it is brilliant, and we just want to trust it. And when we give it the tools that it needs to do it, like the nutritious foods that are low in calorie density, you'll win every time, and your body will be able to do what it is meant to do and get back to this lean, strong midlife body so we can go out there and crush it in midlife. Thank you for listening. Always, always, always love yourself first and have an amazing day.